Welcome to the Dog Trainers Podcast, a podcast created by dog trainers for dog trainers or anyone who's ever fallen in love with man's best friend.
Episode 10, Why Dog Training is Important.
So what would you say, Corey, if we were to say like, so what do you feel most rescue dogs that you work with, what do you feel that they suffer from the most?
Patience and self-control, which I think there's where 90% of our issues stem from lack of patience and self-control. So I don't know. That doesn't really go towards just rescue dog. I think that's dog in general,
right?
But majority of now you're talking about a 5-year-old dog that has zero patience and zero self-control and has been doing some behaving that way, acting that way, whatever for X amount of years. So usually it's a patience and self-control. And then, but if, that's at the top and then you can now break that down to, it doesn't have, it has zero education,
right.
That's also a big one too. It's I'd say, so first one is lack of patience and lack of self-control. And then it has zero education.
Right.
And maybe, level and even with zero education is lack of socialization, as we're talking about. It hasn't experienced anything, or if it did, experience in the wrong manner.
Right.
But I think at the top, it's patience and self-control. That's usually what the issue is.
Right. Yeah. How about you, Mariano? What would you say?
I would agree with him. I just wanted to add to it that, the biggest thing that I think rescue dogs tend to suffer from is like their new owners' imaginations. And that's when we start talking about they make up, and again, of course we understand that they are coming from a good place and it's not their fault. That's why we have jobs. It's, it's understandable, but it's just so that people are clear. There is this really huge tendency among people. It seems like, how it's basically like everything else. There's a typical like rough kind of type of a person that's willing to like adopt or foster a dog. And they're really sweet, emotional people. So they're kind of bleeding hearts, which means sometimes they like, they feel sad for the dog because he was a rescue, and they just kind of like logically you want to make sense of what you're feeling, so they just start creating a backstory of like, oh, that's why the dog's sad, maybe he was abused, like he's scared of my girlfriend, maybe a woman beat him, like they start just creating these stories. But when they seek out training and then they finally start to get the ball rolling with how to kind of move past this, because it might be true, but it might not be true. It's probably not true, but I guess one never knows for sure. So,
but the funny part is either way, the solution is the same.
It's the same.
I tell people that all the time.
Yeah, but the solution then is a bit harder because now you have to navigate through that.
Right.
It's not only just teaching the dog, but now you've got to navigate and kind of get the owner's mindset correct. There's coaching there. There's a lot of coaching.
I love that. Can I like just in dog training in general, because Corey, like you and I met each other a while back, but we haven't been like quite, because I'm in Arizona, and Brent and Corey are in LA together, and we haven't had like quite as much interaction. And so like, I guess my fun thing with dog training as I kind of grew and developed into this, to where we are now is I've always really enjoyed the human element of it, and really getting people on board. I've always found that I'm just kind of, I've had like a knack for it. And so that's always my favorite part. When somebody has this misunderstanding with the dog, it's kind of this like weird push and pull of like, not pressuring them like in a negative sense, but sort of lighting a little fire under them to be like, hey, look, your dog can get better. And the thing is, there's all these reasons why your dog most likely wasn't abused, but I understand where you're coming from. I'm not coming after you. It's a totally normal. In fact, it's a very sweet thing of you. You're a good owner. You care about your dog. You're looking after them emotionally, and you're considering training, which I get it. It's not cheap. It takes time. It costs money, but you care about the dog. So you're on the right track. I'm just here to help you out. So let's do like this. And then I talk to them pragmatically, like, listen, I understand the past and all that stuff, but from here on out, how about we do it like this? And you'll be amazed with what the dog can do. And then typically speaking, that's at least enough to get owners on board to like, to believe you in good faith to start the work. And then the work starts to speak for itself. And then they're like, oh, like you were right, and then at that point, it's just smooth sail until the end.
Well, it's you're correct. I agree. It's empathy. It's empathetic. I'm empathetic to them. Right. I understand.
Not sympathetic.
No. Yes. Empathetic. Yes, I understand that. But yes. And then now you're talking about the education portion.
Right.
Yes, I understand that. But this is where we're trying to go.
Right.
And it's also, I think, yes, this is part of education and teaching them well, if you continue down that route, this is what's going to happen. Right. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we want to steer the ship this way, because that's where you're trying to go. So and this again, I think is the difference between good dog training and bad dog training is the ability to communicate that to people.
I couldn't agree more.
Without that, I mean, just in general, look, yes, we work with dogs, but this is a human service based business. With human, we have nothing. Right. So yes, that
we just have a bunch of dogs running the streets. That's what we have without humans.
Right. So yeah, that's a very important part is learning to connect there. So that's connection. And I agree with you that yes, I get a lot out of working with people. Yeah. And that's nice. It's an enjoyable part of working with dogs, of training dogs. And yes, 50% of it is your dog and 50% of it is the owner. So the better you are at navigating and communicating, the better your dog training is going to be. And like you said, eventually, hopefully, I think we're all sort of at that point where, yes, you have enough experience where your experience speaks for itself, right? True. So now you no longer have to be, I hate to say it, but selling. You no longer have to do that.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. You're selling a legitimate service. You're helping people with their dogs. I think, but I get what you're saying. Where it's not so much you're just using
your knowledge speaks for itself.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's a good
reputation.
Right.
Reputation. Right.
Yeah, that's awesome. No,
so even your reputation and how you handle client, how you handle person. You can be great at training dog, but you're not great at handling people.
Right.
Remember, I was there.
We know a bunch. I mean, everyone evolves. Evolves. Those of you guys who are listening, me and Corey grew up in a company with, probably over 10, 15 dog trainers throughout the duration we were there. And not everyone has the ability. All of them were very gifted dog trainers, but not everyone was gifted with the ability to deal with a human. Right. And anybody that I teach to be a dog trainer in my dog training school, it's always, what we notice in the animal industry, the animal industry is filled with a lot of people who prefer animals over other people. Right. You guys ever seen this in rescues? They're like, I work with rescue because because people suck. Right.
Yeah.
And the big thing that we always have to preach is the key to good dog training is good education and being able to teach people. And, anybody who comes to me who goes, I want to work with dogs professionally because I hate people or I dislike people. I tell them straight up, I say, listen, you're never going to be successful.
You're not going to be successful.
You're not going to be successful. Unless you learn to love people, you will never be a successful dog trainer. There's so many people that we've known, Corey, over the years, and even Mariano's known them, that are really good with dogs, but they couldn't teach a human being to save their lives.
Well, so they can be successful, but they're going to be successful at a number 2 or a number 3 or a number 4. Right. They're not going to be the number 1. So I think there is time and place for that, and you may have to evolve through that, right? You may be a number 3 for years.
Yeah.
As you're developing your people skills and
that's a good point.
Being able to communicate, and eventually you might get there. So not to discourage, right? Any young dog trainer is
definitely keep trying.
I can't do that. Yeah.
Definitely keep trying. That wasn't what I was trying to say, but the idea is if you notice that there's the weakness, then I guess to your point, Corey, keep going and don't discourage you and keep going for sure. Yeah.
But in order for that to happen, you need to learn from somebody.
True. Mentors.
Important. I think what we're saying is there's a big difference between being a dog trainer and like running a dog training business, because if you work at like a kennel, I've met a lot of like kind of back of the house, just dog trainers who just train. And there are other people that deal with like the salesmanship or the phone calls and the whole thing and the follow-ups and, people that can just get it done, and they know how to do all the phases and they know how to work all the dogs, and there's nothing wrong with that. So if that's where you are, but I think what, the whole point really of us even starting this podcast when we did was just, it's not like we're perfect and we're learning as we go too. And we're always getting better too. And just because you may be somewhere right now, that doesn't mean you can't grow. There's, like you guys said, there's mentors out there. There's also books and seminars. And I mean, people make entire empires out of this sort of thing of how to teach you to build yourself emotionally and people skill wise, and how to speak to people. And I think that's a fun thing about dog training is there really is no like perfection. You just get better forever until you're done.
Yeah. And there's no limit to growth, you know. There's no limit.
Well, yes. I mean, that's majority of life is there's no perfection and there's no end. There's no end. And at the beginning of the conversation where I said, yeah, we're ever evolving.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm actively working, doing this, understanding I'm ever evolving. I tell every person I talk to, oh, well, you're a new person. This is a new dog. Mm-hmm. You know, this is all brand new for me. Yes, I've done this hundreds of times previously, but this is all new for me. So we're in this together. I'm learning just as much as you are. Yeah. And so I think that keeps me balanced, right? Because I'm not trying to, yes, I think we know some dog trainers, or you've been around some that are know-it-alls, and, you know, they bring that bravado, machismo, you know, and it's like, people don't want that. People don't want that. No. Right. So I stay very humble. And I think that's because I've also had a lot of mentors and a lot of teachers. And I recognize, you know, my foundation came from 6-7 people. Right. Yeah. Obviously, I put the work in. We put the work in. Right. But those people helped mold and guide you. And without them, we wouldn't be where we are. And so it's ever evolving. And I think, you know, and this is just the way I am personally, though. I'm trying to be a student, right? I'm a student. Right. With anything. And so I'm still a student with this. I think at this point, you know, we have enough knowledge and we have enough experience where we've got the ship going, and we don't need to kind of, it's not that we don't need to, it's just maybe you don't have as much time to sit and look at every new dog trainer that's coming up and try to see what they, you know, can offer you. You're probably seeking out the ones that you've already, you know, built a liking to, and you follow them and you still learn from them. Right. So, but bottom line, ever evolving and trying to constantly learn. So anybody who's out there, don't look at, you know, us and think that, we're so successful and we're not trying to learn, because that's, I think, when you're going to fail. The moment that you think you know everything, you're going to fail because someone is going to call you out on your bullshit.
Yeah. Period.
Yeah. Or the dogs will show it, or, you know, that was kind of the point of this podcast. Was it's an opportunity for people to see as we grow, so that people can see we're not perfect either. And, you know, there's other trainers out there, and this kind of serves as our little version of like our beacon to seek out like-minded people and see how we can all learn from each other.
Cool. Thank you for listening to the Dog Trainers Podcast, a podcast created by dog trainers for dog trainers, or anyone who's ever fallen in love with man's best friend.
We'll see you next time.